very much for coming back and resume our meeting after our recess. It's 10:30. Let me fill you in as how all this came about. We have a pre-agenda meeting on Tuesday prior to the Thursday when our agenda is released to the commissioners and to the public. In our pre-agenda meetings, we to discuss the agenda for the upcoming week. It's myself, the vice chair, Mr. Smith, finance director, tax department,
Public affairs.
yes, the public affairs, county attorney,
and the various departments depending on the matter.
whatever is coming before the commission. So we sort of lay it out to get it to the rule. The law is the statute requires that the commissioners get the information 24 hours prior to. But we get that information out Thursday and do a great job at getting that information so you can look it over Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So with that said, the finance director brings the budget amendments in case we want to, ask or do some study over the weekend or ask different areas, departments of what those budget amendments are. Get with the county manager, of course, and ask what's going on. And that's what happened here last week, is that the finance director brought a budget amendment for the literacy program. And, we go through a process of a lot of study prior to the budget being approved to be effective or be voted on in June to go into effect July 1st. And doing that, Mr. Daugherty and I sat in on just about 99% of all the departments with the county manager as they came in and laid out their plans for the upcoming year to the manager and his staff. So Mr. Daugherty and I were just sitting in on just about all of them. And of course, we have a packet here that came from the Literacy Connections. And each department brought their packet. And when this came up at the agenda meeting, there was conversation within the meeting of the funds and how those funds where they would come from and so forth and so on. And being that we're only 60 days out of just basically 60 days out of the gate with the new budget that we all have worked very hard on, seeing that, I felt like it was necessary to have a work session. And that's why we're here today. And Mr. Smith has notified the literacy director and asked her to come and present this back to us, and maybe to inform us, hopefully, of the funding and what she's doing and what this literacy is all about up until this date. So we are here today to have a work session on this to give this department an opportunity to bring their information to us. Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. You have today Literacy Connections Wayne County Executive Director Pat Yates, and I'm going to ask her to come forward now to present kind of an update on literacy and where that program is in Wayne County this time.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to come in and share, a great passion in my life with you. I'm Pat Yates, the Executive Director of Literacy Connections, and I would like to introduce some individuals who are here with us today. Jane Rustin is the former director of the Wayne County Public Library. She provided particularly valuable service in that when the information came forward about the need for workforce development in terms of adult literacy, Jane chaired the committee that brought through the Chamber of Commerce, that brought the first advisory committee to be seated to look at establishing this. And she continues to serve as a valuable member of our board. Seated next to her is Lee Hulse. Lee Hulse is the director of Bank on Wayne, which is a consortium of banks that are cooperating and bringing financial literacy to our families. This is a new program, that's a new funding we've received. It'll come under the umbrella of Literacy Connections this fall. Our vice chair, Charles Brogdon, could not be here today. He is the human resource director for Flowers Baking Company, and his work responsibilities kept him from here today. And I particularly want to introduce to you Patricia Colon, who is seated to the far right. She is the Director of Children and Family Services for Wages, the largest nonprofit in Wayne County. These individuals have given strength and focus to our organization and given us a lot of validity, and I'm very proud to have them stand here with me today. Two individuals who are here with me as well are Dr. Glenn Phillips. You may know him as the pastor of First Baptist Church, but he has been a tutor for several years for us, and his student, Windsor Ingram, is our spokesperson for this year, for the 2013 year. I'm going to move quickly through the presentation because some of the early materials you've heard before. You know that we are here to provide free literacy services to all adults in Wayne County so they can experience success at home, in the community, and particularly in the workplace. And we have grown very quickly. We filed our Articles of Incorporation in 2009, and we grew out of the Chamber of Commerce. We served, Jane Rustin served as the chairperson of a steering committee through the Education Committee of the Chamber, and the Chamber has supported us. We continue to be a member of the charitable partnership at the Chamber. We have grown so effectively that we have served over 476 students to this date. We have over 229 volunteers, and we have one of the rare centers in the state which are open 6 days a week. Where we came from was from a report that was a needs assessment of Wayne County that talked about what were the critical needs in Wayne County. And in the survey completed by East Carolina University, it came forth that 85% of the residents of Wayne County identify adult literacy as an important issue, and 39% of them recognize it as a critical issue. And in fact, the top 2 job skills that every business manager, every industry wants are reading and language literacy, reading, and computer literacy, which are in fact the job skills that we teach at Literacy Connections. One of the important facts about modern life is that in order to get 95% of jobs now, you have to have the ability to go online and apply for them. But 40% of our workforce do not have those skills. I was with some of you gentlemen at the veterans meeting. We were very happy about hearing 9% was our unemployment rate, which is down from several years ago. But that means that one household in every neighborhood goes without an income. But it also means 60% of those individuals, if they are not given literacy skills, will never get a job. 60% of our unemployed will never find a job unless they are given the opportunity to learn to read and use the computer. In Wayne County, you know this data, I've said it before, 1 out of 10 adults is illiterate, cannot read at all, cannot do it. That provides us with almost 10,000 adults in Wayne County who cannot read. That 1 in 4 read below a 3rd grade level. That provides us with 24,000 people who read below a 3rd grade level. Another 32% read between the 3rd and 8th grade level. That provides for us that 58% of adults in Wayne County read below a 9th grade level. 80% of jobs now require you to be able to have some college education. And you know what this means. It means that these families are going to be unstable. They're going to rely on public assistance. They're going to have more issues in their family, more unemployment, more poverty. Their children will drop out of school. It will create a very negative community environment. But we know that literacy instruction is actually very effective. In fact, the one place where you can be guaranteed to get literacy instruction is if you go to prison. If you go to prison and receive literacy instruction, you have less than 20% chance of reoffending, about a 16% chance of reoffending. If you do not get literacy instruction, you have an 80% chance of reoffending. This is an economic issue for Wayne County. Wayne County, on an average year, loses $45 million in revenue due to low literacy. Our businesses and industry are paying out an average of $3.32 million a year remediating workers who do not have basic reading and literacy skills. And in fact, as a county on average, we spend over $14 million a year on health issues related to low literacy. Our employers, our residents here are relying on us to provide literacy skills. In fact, the low literacy can cause people to die as much as 3 years younger than if they were simply able to read. If you look at a snapshot of what's happened with Literacy Connections, we have grown rapidly. When I came on board in 2011, we only had 71 students. We only had 71 tutors, and now we have 229. We have gone from 39 students 2 years ago to 135 students last year to 476 this year. We've gone from having tutor-student pairs, 16 to 2 years ago, to 134 last year, to 397 this year. Our volunteer tutor hours have grown from 300 2 years ago to 2,000 last year to over 11,000 this year, which provides a value of free services to the taxpayers and residents of Wayne County of over $200,000. County commissioners have generously in the past 2 years provided the essential finances for the top positions in Literacy Connections. When I came on board 2 years ago, I wrote a grant to AmeriCorps, and it cost us a little under $6,000. We received the match funds to have a $25,000 full-time teaching position. This last year, we were offered the opportunity to apply for 2 of those positions, and with our immense growth, we needed them. If you look at the request for funding for $27,000, you have funded us at the rate of $85,000, and I appreciate that. That's valuable. But that $85,000 will provide for the first 2 positions for the most part, and will not provide for the AmeriCorps position as you have traditionally provided, or for the second position. And the important part about that is that we have received a grant of $50,000. We will lose $38,000 of that grant and the 2 positions if we cannot match funds with the $12,000 that I'm asking for. The last position, the registrar, is a position which we have funded through fundraising and other activities in the last 2 years. This person has greeted people, tested people, registered people, and allowed us to function as a professional organization, giving us the effectiveness for me to be able to write grants and build a community network. So this $27,000 that I'm asking you for today will fund 2 full-time teaching positions and 1 half-time registrar position. That will give the Wayne County residents 2.5 professional positions for a cost of $27,000, an average cost of only $9,000 each. So what are the consequences if I do not receive that funding? Well, first of all, I have to cap new student registration. I have used all of my creative wiles, and my staff and the supporters have used all of their wiles to raise the funds to educate 476 adults. But without this funding to provide the staffing and the teaching, we can no longer provide those services. So I'll have to go back. My last day last week on Thursday, a young girl in her 20s came in, and she was very shy, and she approached the desk and she said, "I want to go to school. I want to learn to read. If I cannot fund these 2 positions, when the next young person walks into my lab, I'll have to say, come back next year. I can't teach you to read now. We don't have the materials, we don't have the staff to do that." If the next thing I'll have to do is I'll have to go back and tell our registrar that her last day will be next Friday. And I'll be sitting at that front desk. I'll be greeting the public. I'll be testing students. I'll be registering them. And that's an expensive investment for a position that could cost us a few $1,000s. If you look at the loss of service, we have had tremendous growth, and I've almost been criticized for that. I have to tell you, I haven't recruited anybody. When someone walks through the door, we try and teach them to read. This tremendous growth is a reflection of the tremendous need we have in Wayne County. Our businesses and industry need this service. If we cannot fund these 2 positions, first of all, we will lose the AmeriCorps grant. We'll lose that $38,000. I've worked very hard to position us. We have worked very hard to position our organization to be worthy of grants. This is a federal grant that's managed by the state. If we have to return those dollars to the state and lose those 2 positions, we will not qualify for them again. That will blacken our eye. With this projection that I have in red, with the loss of services, if we don't experience any increased funding, this means that next year there'll be at least 158 new students, new tutors and volunteers that I won't be able to take on and train and put into place. That means that another 341 students will not learn to read. That means that 263 tutor pairs will not be made. That means that we'll lose 9,000 hours of volunteer hours, services to the residents of Wayne County, which is a value of over $170,000. I want to stop for a moment, and I'm going to tell you one very brief story, and then I'm going to ask Windsor to come forward. I don't have the time on this, but if I run short, let me know. This is a critical issue. I have a young man who came into my office and could not read, and we taught him to read, and now he volunteers every Saturday with Habitat for Humanity. He's built 3 houses. Every Thursday he goes and builds ramps for disabled people in Wayne County. He does it for free. He had such a disability, he now reads for himself. I had a gentleman who came in, I shared this, I believe, with 2 of the county commissioners, and the health issue is just tremendous. Your medical community will tell you the health issue for people who can't read. I had a young man who came in, had a backache, and he could not read. So I showed him the shape of the word Advil, because it was shorter than ibuprofen. I said, you can go to the store and get this, and you can take 2 of these every 4 hours, and you'll be all right. You'll be okay. I saw him later in the week, and he was just staggering. And I said, what happened? What happened? He said, Miss Pat, that medicine you told me to take, it's making me so sleepy. And I said, well, show it to me. He had gone and he had traced out the word Advil, but he didn't have the reading skills to know that there's a difference in Advil and Advil PM. And he was taking Advil PM every 4 hours. Most of the time when I tell groups about that, they kind of laugh. He said, Miss Pat, I'm so sleepy. And it is kind of funny until you know that he drives a van for a living. He drives a van full of children and families in Wayne County every day. And he was doing the best that he could for himself and his family. I have 100 stories I could tell you, and if you know me, you know I do. But let me invite Windsor Ingram, one of our students, and his tutor, Dr. Glenn Phillips, forward to tell you a little bit of what they tell the county and the community when they go out to speak.
Good morning to
Good morning.
the whole board. I am so glad and so honored to be here this morning in front of you. And I ask myself sometime, I don't know why Miss Yates chose me and this fine young man behind me. This fine young man behind me loved me enough to teach me to read. Out of his busy walk of life that he took time from his wife and his children to come and help me at the Literacy Center. I went to the college, but I wasn't advanced enough to be in a classroom. And I will say, I haven't said it before now, but I'm 64 years old. Somebody said, as old as you are, why you want to go to school? Because I just want to better myself. And being able, and it's so wonderful to be able to read to your grandkids when you've never been able to do before. And one thing that I would say, if there's anything that y'all could do, please, it's never what's wrong with doing good, being able to help someone else to read in this county, that they might not commit suicide, that they can be productive citizens in our neighborhood and wherever we might be in Sunday school. And when I read my Sunday school book now and read my Bible study, it amazes the people. Like someone like, where have you been? Because of this man have taken time, and this lady have taken time to teach me to learn to read, and not only that, just love as a person, and just love. And there's so much good in Wayne County that I love every bit of it. I'm so grateful to be here and been all over. I'm just telling people quit their job because they get to a certain level and they have to go on computers and different things, and so they can't read, so they quit their job. I used to sit to the back of the church sometimes Sunday school because I couldn't read, but now guess where I'm sitting? Right at the front, because I can take my Sunday school book and read to other people and read to my, you know, when you can do it all of your life, it's not that much. But when I can read a word, when I see a street that I know in your name, that I can make out, that I can understand, it's such a joy and such a peace to me that I love it. I'm gonna hush, but that's all my heart. And just please, anything that y'all can do, please, that we need this money to teach others. And my face is one of many, but there's a whole lot of us. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I don't really have, what can I say after he's spoken? He's more like the preacher than the preacher, right? But I know you all have difficult decisions to make. You try to portion the money in places where it can benefit our county, and you're appreciated for that. But I wanted to say to you today that for 18 months I've invested myself in this, and I went into it with the idea of doing it for 2 or 3 months. And stepping aside, I've been challenging the people in my congregation that there's so many good things in Wayne County that we can involve ourselves in, that we don't have to recreate through our church. We can involve ourselves in the community things that are going. And I want you to know that after just a few short weeks, I knew that I had to continue to do this, because I was amazed, actually, at the number of people that need to learn to read in our community. And as Windsor says, we've been going around to a lot of places, and it's amazing how many people in the workforce tell me people have had to stop their jobs because they couldn't reach it. They reached where the computers were kicking in, or different things that they couldn't do. Windsor worked a full life. He worked in our community all his life till he retired and allowed his wife to help him read, who passed away, and that was his inspiration to come and do this. So I would encourage you to at least consider this request, and maybe I would ask you to consider volunteering a couple hours at the Literacy Center, because the last thing I want to tell you is 477. My life has been forever changed by a program that you help birth and give wings to. And I am more the beneficiary than Mr. Windsor Ingram, my friend. And I ask for your consideration today unashamedly. God bless you. Thank you.
One of the questions that the commissioners posed to me a while back was what contributions our students made. We are charged by our charter to provide free services. The most valuable teaching tool that we have is a picture dictionary. It's just a beautiful book, but a new one costs $50. And when we initially opened the first year and a half, we gave them to our students. And quickly, as our numbers went up, we couldn't afford to do that anymore. So what we have done to pass on a portion of the expense of the program to our students is we ask them now to purchase their own picture dictionary. And so that costs them between $25 and $50 each. And for many of these people, that's the difference in putting gas in their car that week or buying medicine or whatever. So it's hurtful for us, but it's necessary to be able to serve the numbers in the community that need service. May I answer any questions for you this morning?
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Payne.
Payne, I apologize for being absent late. Commissioner King keeps me pretty busy. I know we got a lot of students. Have you ever were able to get the, what was a spreadsheet or exactly what we were working on to try to give a breakout of who we're serving?
In the budget packet that
Can that be shared with us?
In the budget packet that I prepared for the county, I gave that breakdown. And it's there. We established as a priority to get a database going. You know, when we started, we had 34 students. Having a database wasn't so important. We purchased the materials and set up our own database in January of this year. And we've just been able to generate those, and I did do a breakdown of it. What I will say is that our demographics are on par with the state and with the nation, that we are right in alignment with the other communities and agencies and how they serve, who they serve. And we serve all ages. We are an adult literacy program. We're given funds this summer to do a family literacy program, so we did run some family literacy activities. We've given away thousands of books to people of all ages. But we do serve primarily adults age 18 and up. But demographically, our largest number are those in the workforce years, between 24 and 45, who get into the workplace and find that I had a gentleman who came in, he applied for a job just as a clerk in a store, one of the local retail stores, and they put him on a computer. 95% of jobs now you can only get through a computer application. He couldn't type and he didn't read well. He worked on the application for over 2 hours. When he stood up to leave, the manager noticed him and said, "Why are you still here? After 30 minutes, your application gets kicked out of the system." He came to me just devastated. He could not even apply to be a clerk in a dollar store because he didn't have the computer and the reading skills to be successful. So we see all different, and I'll tell you one of the most interesting stories. We have a gentleman who moved here from outside of Kenansville, a little town called Aubusson, and he's a wealthy man. He worked hard all of his life and became a wealthy man. And I've shared this with some of the commissioners before. He chose to move to Wayne County and to buy a number of apartments and houses here and rehabilitate them and provide good quality housing to people in Wayne County. Because this man is well off. I'd probably say he's a millionaire. But no one in the surrounding counties was teaching anybody to read. He was 62 years old and could not read. He'd lost one job because he couldn't use a computer, he couldn't read. He chose to come here. He came to the library one day and he said, "Are you the lady who teaches people to read?" And I said, "Yes." And he chose to sell his property in another county, move here and buy a home, and to buy and create homes for people here, because we would teach him to read. And he alone has made it worthwhile to me that we have this program that attracts people to come and be a part of our business and industry. It's not just poor people. It goes across the whole spectrum. I bet 1 in 10 people in Wayne County cannot read. And if you stopped and thought about who you know that doesn't read the mail, their wife or son pays their bills, doesn't read in church, doesn't subscribe to a newspaper or magazine, you know someone who cannot read. And I hope when you realize that, you'll send them to us so we can help them.
Mr. Mayo.
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned earlier that you had gotten a $50,000 grant. What was you said something about 12,000, the matching funds for that?
We wrote a grant with a value of $50,000, but it requires us to provide $6,000 for each of the 2 teachers. So the value beyond the $12,000 we contribute is $38,000. We will lose that $38,000 and all of our teaching staff if we cannot provide $12,000 of match funds.
Okay.
So $38,000 is the federal money that comes to us through a state administration. But it takes match funds of $12,000 to keep those positions going.
Okay, so
We would lose the 38.
Okay, so 12,000 is really what you need, is that correct?
I'm asking for $12,000 for the 2 teaching positions for the match fund. I'm also asking for the funding to continue a half-time registrar position. We fundraised and came up with a half-time registrar position 5 months ago to help us while we were setting up our database. And since there are only 2 staff members, one of my staff members, the other staff member besides myself, experienced a critical family crisis and was going to be out. So we took our very slender funds that we had and established a registrar position, 20 hours a week. And she has helped us in setting up the database, running our inventory, registering students, acting as a receptionist. She tests our students. She's been extremely valuable. And for 20 hours a week, $10 an hour, we would like to continue having her. What that has done is it allowed me to have, for the first time in the 2 years I've done this position, to have the time to start seeking out grants and building relationships. And I'm already, this just really happened about 2 weeks ago, I'm already feeling the effects of being able to administer this program and not having to be the frontline person, not having to be the receptionist, not having to be the intake person, not having to be the person that fills out the forms and runs the inventory and those kinds of things. So I asked for those dollars for that position. It was in the original grant request, and it's included in the $27,000. $12,000 is for the match funds, and there's $14,000, which is for the registrar position. It is it's $10,000. Well, it's $14,000 with benefits. It's $10,400 for salary. With benefits, that brings it up to $14,000. And you'll notice a discrepancy that salaries on this chart, we are short $29,000. I only asked for $27,000 because I didn't want to ask for more than what we really needed. That chart includes a salary for me of $40,000. I'm very proud of the fact that my executive committee recommended a $2,200 pay increase for me because it's kind of hard to get by on $37,800. But in order to ask you for as few dollars as possible, I instructed my board to set aside that pay increase for this year. And I'll go on with $37,800 for the next year so that we don't have to ask you for $29,500, $29,200, we're just asking you for $27,000. It's more important to me that we fund these positions, and it's such an economic value to Wayne County. Where else can you provide 3 employees for the cost of $9,000 each? The hundreds, thousands of hours that they will give to our citizens and residents, our taxpayers, at a cost of $9,000 each. It's good economic sense.
Mr. Mayo.
Follow-up question. Since we redid the budget and so forth, have you been able, I think if I remember correctly, in our budget session, you're going to try to increase the giving, go out and see if you could gain some more support. Has that been the case, or are you able to make any headway?
That is happening. We have worked so hard to keep a stellar reputation. You know, first of all, these two positions are not offered to most agencies. We were offered the two AmeriCorps positions because we've been adjudicated one of the top AmeriCorps sites in the country. We've had such success. So this new money, this $38,000, that's part of it. We have also tried to be an exceptional supporter of United Wayne County. And through that partnership, they provided us with some additional bridge funding for one of these positions, just $420, but it made a difference. But also, they have identified us to be the recipient of the Bank on Wayne program, which is the financial literacy program, which engages our local banks in helping with the literacy effort, particularly so that people can have financially stable homes and be better employers. That comes under our umbrella now, and we will have total responsibility for it in beginning January 2014, and that brings in about $36,000 for the next few months. But those dollars come to us. We also have had, of course, you may know, we're doing our fundraiser for the year, the Read Between the Wines, and we anticipate $6,000 to $10,000 of income from that. But one of the things that I need for you to understand is that when I talk about serving 476 people, I've got to give them books. I've been as clever as I can be. First I wrote a book. We needed one so bad. Last summer I got up at 4:30 every morning, and for 2 hours I wrote a book that we could photocopy. An adult literacy book usually costs between $30 and $50, and we can't afford that for 476 people. Then I began an in-depth campaign to find reproducible books. United Way gave us a free copier, and so we can make copies of reproducible materials. And now we have a full curriculum library. I've traveled all over the state. I've got a reputation as a scavenger because I've hit every Goodwill and Habitat Restore, whatever, to find used books that we could refurbish and use. But I've also found a number of reproducible books. So we're not just teaching reading. We're teaching math. We're teaching computers. We're teaching how to write a resume. We're teaching how to pass the CRC test. We have people at the college. The college will not accept the very low-level readers. We have people at the college who cannot graduate because they can never pass the math placement exam. And they come to us, and everyone we've worked with individually has passed that math placement exam, and they've been able to graduate and go on to their careers.
Mr. Bell.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion to approve the request.
Motion's on the floor to approve this request. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daughtery.
Ms. Yates, I was somewhat perplexed when I understood that you had made the statement that I had informed you that we would entertain this amendment, if you would just simply bring that before the board. If you will recall my statement when I went to meet with you individually, was that my concern was the sustainability of your program. That the program began, and it's a great program. It is, I mean, it's about like who can be against it. Again, it is a fantastic program, but it must have revenue to sustain itself. And I had asked you to find a way to implement some type of a small sliding scale, whatever, type of a registration fee for your students. And in my discussion, your concern was their affordability. And I said, well, you know, it's amazing to me that an individual that cannot afford any funds can get a speeding ticket, but they can find those funds for that speeding ticket. And I had just simply asked that you work to try to find some type of a fee for registration. I was not aware that your charter would not allow you to do that. But my question here is, have you gone back to see whether or not you can change your charter to allow you to charge some type of a registration fee?
I spoke with my board about that, and there are about 3 or 4 parts to your question.
Okay.
First of all, I would never make a public comment about any private conversation that I had with the commissioner. Two commissioners came with me after the budget was passed, and I asked them about whether the option of a budget amendment was available. And I don't have the detailed memory of our conversation, except that I do remember that there was a question about could our students contribute to the cost. And the greatest cost that we had was that picture dictionary. So in order not to contravene our mission statement of providing free literacy services, and also in order not to engage my staff in taking in money and giving receipts and giving out money, and in order not to provide an unnecessary barrier, but to put it on to the student to be responsible for the greatest expense associated with their enrollment, we made the decision to ask the students to purchase the picture dictionary. And that way, they have to make a financial contribution. It relieves our budget of the responsibility of having to purchase that most valuable curriculum material. The reason I come to you about the staff is that we need to have a consistency within our staff. I'm very happy to write grants, and there are things that we need for grants, and I'm very happy to ask for resources, donations from the community for our many programs and projects. But staff needs to be consistent. The young lady that I will have to let know that her last day is next Friday has been an employee of Wayne County for many years, and she's very valuable. And to let her go, even if I get grant funding 2 months later, means I have to get someone who is not experienced, not a tried quantity, but someone who is new, that I have to then spend time training and hope that they can achieve that level. So originally from the beginning, we have come to the county commissioners to ask to give us a consistency within our staffing, because we do not wish to train and put someone in place and have them know all the tutors, know all the civic organizations, know all the employers, know all the processes, only to lose them 6 months later or a year later when that particular grant funding runs out. We need a consistent platform to work with these large number of students. So that's why I've come to you about. I haven't come to you about books. I haven't come to you about, we have a number of students who need adaptive devices. They can't see, they need eyeglasses, they can't hold a pencil, they need special pencils. I haven't come to you for any sort of supplies or books or pencils or materials or programming money. But just for staffing, because it needs to be consistent. It needs to be high quality.
But do you not recall our conversation where you had stated that you were already charging for the books, and in addition to that, I was stating that either that would have to be increased or maybe some type of a registration fee of some type. And I do understand your dilemma in that if you've got a board and the board is not wanting to charge some type of an application, administration fee, whatever you may want to call it, then I suppose you could do that from the standpoint of the book itself. And I'm hoping that you will recall our conversation that when something is given for free, it sometimes is perceived of less value versus someone investing, and they have an investment in their success. And I think you recall some of that conversation.
We had asked some of our temporary students at that time. We have some students who we know are temporary. They come in, they're here on a short-term contract for Uchiyama, for Butterball, Case Farms. They know they're only going to be here for 2 or 3 months. And we had already begun asking those students to purchase the dictionary. We did not have a widespread policy for our long-term students to do that. at that time. I didn't articulate that well to you in that conversation. We have 501c3 status with we have status under the 501c3 charter of the Wayne Charitable Foundation, and we have registered our articles of incorporation with the state of North Carolina back in November of 2009. And it would affect our status with all of those agencies. We'd have to go back and revisit those filings and those memberships if we chose to begin charging fees. We are a nonprofit organization. If we began to charge a real fee versus passing on expenses in the way that I've spoken about, it could affect both our articles of incorporation, our membership in the charitable partnership, and our status as we move forward to be a 501c3 organization.
So let me clarify here. Actually, you are only charging for the book to certain students.
For any of our students that we know, we ask our students to commit to a minimum of 6 months. For any student who comes through and says, I'm just here working a contract for 3 months, we still provide them with services, but we cannot extend a great financial investment to someone who is not going to have a good high impact on the reading. So for those students that we knew that were short-term, or for those students who are in the early stages of registration, students can come and register, come to classes for 2 months, and then their job or their family responsibilities become overwhelming. So we had already delayed giving out picture dictionaries to students who were not there for a significant length of time. We could not afford to put a $50 book in the hand of someone who might not be able to return for services in a month.
Which, let me follow up on that. Now that brings up another question. I mean, you've made a presentation here that, one, I have great questions about, where you're stating that 58% of the Wayne County adults, now make sure, 58%, 52,000 Wayne County adults read below the 9th grade level.
Yes, sir. And that data
Now, where'd you get that data from?
It's on the page.
I find that hard to
That data-
imagine that 60% almost of the adults in Wayne County read below a 9th grade education.
Well, if you talk with businesses and industries, I think they will confirm that.
Well,
Let me tell you.
that in itself is eye-opening, but let me go further. Now you're telling me that basically these services that we're providing are individuals that are transient, or people that
No,
are
sir.
here on
No,
a
sir.
short-term basis. You just stated that they were here for 3
No.
months
When
on
our-
a contract.
When our students come in, no, that's rare, and I probably shouldn't have used that particular example.
But you did state that, didn't you?
That's rare, and I probably should not have used that example.
Okay.
People who cannot read have tremendous stresses on their lifestyle. They have issues with transportation, health, family, school, financial stability, keeping their home going. So we ask them to commit to 6 months, because on average it takes 6 months to raise someone
Sure.
from one level of reading to the next.
Sure.
And the majority of our students make that 6 months. But when someone walks in my office the first day and says, I want to learn to read, I don't put $100 worth of materials in their arms and send them out the door. I ask them to participate in the program for a period of time until they have validated that their commitment is significant, and at that point we begin to release resources. That is a standard practice of every literacy council in North Carolina, that they delay providing substantial resources. The data that I have provided for this, all of it has the annotations to it. Several different agencies, the North Carolina Community College sponsored the initial study that gave that data. The National Association for Adult Literacy confirms that data, and Pro-Literacy, which is a national organization, confirms that data. The problem for me is not a lack of data, is that there's too much data. The 2008 data that came out, actually says that in Wayne County it's getting worse instead of better against the 1998 data. And in fact, the census is the 2008 census that provides the information about education. And if you'd like additional information, I'll provide it to you. But if you look at our number of our high school graduates, we have many high school graduates who are in our program who cannot read. And I'm
sorry?
not going to go into the politics of that, but there are
Wait a minute, I'm
people-
sorry, I just missed that one. Please.
There are people who graduate from high school who cannot read.
Okay, thank you.
And
I'm
there
sorry.
is a lot of data out there that supports that.
Okay,
And,
please say. Thank you.
and each piece of data that I've given you is supported with the source of that data as you look through your documents. I'm trying to find the page where I put the information
Well,
that you're talking
Ms.
about.
Yates, if I
Came
could finish
from,
up, and
US
I'll wrap
Department-
up here.
Please,
Ms.
Mr.
Yates,
Dodd.
here's
The
my,
National Center for Education Statistics, the 2003 report. The Institution of Education Sciences from the U.S. Department of Education. From the Literacy North Carolina report, sponsored by the North Carolina Literacy Center, part of the North Carolina Community College system. I gave annotations on all of the data because I wanted it to be
well,
valid.
Ms. Yates, what you're basically saying is that we really need to fund you in the millions of dollars, because if we've got 58,000, 52,000, 58% of the adults in Wayne County, that we really need to take, really
No, sir.
shoot this thing up.
No, sir.
And I've got some concern over the numbers, but I'll go beyond that. I have reached out trying to explain to you that my concern as a commissioner is the sustainability of the program. And you are viewing the sustainability of the program from the standpoint that as we grow, we just simply need to add more dollars from the local level for the program. And I have tried to explain my position that I felt like it would be better if we had a sustainability where those individuals that were participating in the program actually buy into the program, have investment in the program, financial investment in the program. And I would have only hoped that you had worked to resolve that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
appreciate it.
Daugherty.
Thank you.
Mr. Camardi, and then Mr. Mayo,
I'm gonna try to be brief.
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna try to be brief, man.
and then Mr. Pate.
But, number one, I would doubt very seriously that anyone who's responsible for a program would come in with data that did not have a basis of facts. So please be assured that I'll not question where you got your data from, because I just somewhat a little bit perplexed that we would question the validity of the data. But let me go to where I really want to go to. I would expect that the Board of County Commission that we sit on would not, and forgive me if it looks this way, but please don't always question the least of those folks, programs who can defend themselves, to start talking about let them come in and pay some fee to get in. Because sometimes that's just not possible. And I know maybe sometimes you just don't run into people that don't have extra money to pay a fee to get into a program. But that's why the rest of us pay taxes for those who can't do that, to be able to enjoy some of these things. Now, bear with me just a minute, because after I do this, I'm on a hush. But I just got to make a point here. And Mr. Ingram, I want to apologize just a moment, because I'm going to include you in this. A famous person made a speech some 50 years ago. And the speech began, "I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 5 score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand signed the Emancipation Proclamation. The momentous decree came as a great beacon light to hope to millions of people." And I'll use that term because today, rather than Negro slaves, I want to use people, because we're not just talking about a race. We're talking about a group of people who can't read and who have been sheared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity. And that captivity could be captured in the mind of a person who cannot read, who can't walk and tell you what's on that speed limit sign. I know people who can't tell whether they're speeding or not because they can't read those signs. I know of a person who had to pay a ticket because he couldn't tell that he had gone from a 45-mile zone to a 35-mile zone. Now, I can't get this to come back up, but the great man I'm alluding to is Martin Luther King. Now, pardon me, Mr. Ingram, but if Mr. Ingram told us a few minutes ago that he wasn't able to read his Bible. He certainly wouldn't have been able to go back and read Martin Luther King's speech that means so much to us. Now he can go back and do that. I don't mean to get preachy, but let's be equitable, if not equal. Let's not single out senior citizens and those that can't read as to where we're going to make our deductions at. We can deduct, but if we're not a poor county, let's not pick the least able of us and the least offensive of us to make our cuts on. Gentlemen, that's it. Let's move forward. $27,000. If $27,000 can help any portion of these 476 people be able to read the Bible, be able to tell whether they're speeding or not, be able to tell whether they're taking the right medicine or not, be able to tell whether the calories on that bread that you're encouraging us to eat better is more healthy for us, then let's help everyone to be able to read. $27,000, sure, we can say $27,000 is too much, but Wayne County is not broke based upon what I believe. I urge us to close this discussion, and I urge us to vote to approve the request.
Thank you, Mr. Barton, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Pate.
I don't think any of us are questioning the purpose of Literacy Connections. I know I'm not. I understand the importance of it. But from my standpoint as a commissioner, I want to make sure that the county is not the sole funding arm for Literacy Connection. My question is that have you given this same presentation to the city of Goldsboro?
I signed up to be part of the City of Goldsboro's grant process last year, and they did not include us in that. However, I serve as the vice chair of the Mayor's Committee for Disabilities for the City of Goldsboro, and I have other relations with the Community Affairs Office and with the City Manager's Office. And we have begun conversations about the importance of including Literacy Connections in that funding cycle. The majority of the largest number of persons who cannot read in Wayne County are within the City of Goldsboro. Now, the most dense population that cannot read is in southern Wayne County. So we have begun that dialogue. We are funded by other agencies. This $38,000 grant from the federal government that's administered by the state. We are funded at the rate of about $20,000 by United Way. We have fundraisers that we do that have provided for us about $12,000 to $15,000 of operating funds. And one of the things I believe as an administrator, and I take my job as an administrator very seriously, is you have to balance. You have to go, you gave us this fantastic facility. And what happened was people were coming by and saying, where are the students? You've got 6 big tables, 3 small tables. And so I had a conversation at that time with our county manager and with our chairperson of our board. And they said, you've got to get the word out that you're out there, that you've been given this tremendous gift, and it is, gentlemen, I'm very grateful of this facility. But we got to fill it up. So last year, when we only had, whatever, 100, 200 students, whatever, I went out and spoke in the county and said, send us your employees, send us your parents who, to the schools who cannot read. And we did that. We filled it up. So the next thing was we had to have enough staff to merit the facility. So really, it came from you. You gave me a wonderful center. I can fill it full of people, but in order to have the staff to coordinate those 200 and something volunteers have to be trained, they have to be supervised. In order to have the staff to teach those 476 people, I cannot do it alone. So I do not intend to come back to you next year with a huge request for additional, but I've got to have enough staff to merit the facility that we have and to serve the community that has asked me for services.
Okay, so am I hearing that the city does not have a line item in their budget that they give to Literacy Connections every year?
They did not include us in that funding. I requested it through the County Affairs Office and was assured that we would be included in it, and we were not included in it.
Okay, I
However,
think that's where we have a problem here,
Well,
because the county, I as a commissioner, I feel like that everyone that's involved in this should come to the table just like we do for everything else.
And we have invited them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is hard for people to understand, when I was hired 2 years ago, we had one laptop and 2 folders of information. The need is so phenomenal in Wayne County that we've grown very fast. And I understand that's a little bit intimidating to people. But it was not motivated by any other factor than the fact that the need is so tremendous. So we've gotten state funding, we've gotten federal funding, we've gotten United Way funding, we've gotten 2 major fundraisers that brought in $10 to $15,000. We've built relationships. We now have the banks are coming in, they're contributing. We have multi-stream funding. But I'm an employee of Wayne County, and I very much appreciate you allowing me to be that. And the volunteer coordinator is an employee of Wayne County. And we are an outside agency in Wayne County, but we serve everyone of Wayne County. And a number of our people are from Pikeville, Mount Olive. Mr. Windsor drives to my office from 7 Springs twice a week. He puts the gas in his car because we do not have services in 7 Springs. We are serving all of Wayne County. And I am aggressively pursuing, and you may speak with the city manager. I saw him twice last week and had conversations about the fact that we had to be included in that funding cycle this year. I requested it last year. I had a formal request in with the county affairs office. I had filed paperwork, and they did not include us in that funding cycle. But we will aggressively pursue it, and we've proven our value to the city of Goldsboro in these last 2 years.
Thank you. Mr. Pate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question to council first. Does the nonprofit status, is it endangered if we ask for a fee up front? Does it impact the AmeriCorps grants?
I don't know about the grants, but it should not impact the nonprofit status.
So it should not.
I'd have to look at the grants to be able to answer that.
I am a member of this board, and I've spent the majority of my life in workforce development. These figures probably most likely are correct, and I believe that because I saw it every day in my job. And I've talked to HR officials who agree with what you're saying. I think the question before this board is, yeah, we got the need. We've got the problem, and we've got an economic issue with these people who cannot read, and it impacts us every day. But it just goes to the point that how far do we go? How much can we afford as a county to continue to grow this service? And that's what's in my mind. Because you know I believe in the idea because I've done it my whole life. It's not my money I'm spending here. That's the key to this.
May I share with you that the vast majority of our students are employed. All of our students are taxpayers through sales tax, property tax, et cetera, but the majority of our students are employed and are contributing to the tax revenue of the county. This is enlightened self-interest. As I can help a student, let me think of one of them I'll share with you. If I can help a student, for example, I had a student, her name was Aurelia. She could not read at all. She learned to read as quickly as any student I ever had. Her family was living on $15,000 a year. She had 4 children and a wonderful husband. She learned to read and got a job. She has a full-time job, and now her family's income is over $40,000 a year because she can contribute to the household. So when you give me $27,000 to give me teachers to teach people to read, understand they go out into the community and they generate revenue for Wayne County. When she came to me, Aurelia had never seen a dentist, and she had an abscess and all her teeth were messed up, and I gave her a referral to the Goshen Dental Center, and they fixed her teeth. And because of that, she didn't develop a terrible infection that would send her to the hospital or the emergency room to add to the $14 million that we're paying as local people to support our healthcare system because people who are illiterate cannot take care of their health. So this little, and I know to y'all it's not little, and it's not little to me standing here, this little $27,000, it'll give me 3 people to full-time help people learn to read, get better jobs, take care of the health, keep them out of public assistance, keep them out of the criminal justice system. I cannot think of an investment that will pay back to the residents, citizens, and taxpayers of Wayne County at a higher rate of return than this $27,000.
Mr. Chairman.
Let me finish, please.
Okay, yes, Mr. Pate. And then Mr. Daughtery, and then Mr. Mayo.
And Mr. Mayor can tell you this, the complexity of the manufacturing floor today has changed dramatically. The days you could come out of, or you drop out of high school, or not be able to read and go into work in a factory and make a good living, those days are over. They are. You've got to have the skills to be able to perform the jobs of those new jobs that are coming back to this country. Because they're coming back to this country because they're not being productive. It's costing too much for transportation to come back from China. So,
And
but
our business-
again, I just want to make sure that we don't grow too fast. You understand what I'm saying? And that where you're back here again next year asking for additional dollars. And I know, like Mr. Daughtery said, we could grow this thing tenfold.
Our
But we
business
gotta be
in-
careful how we do this.
Our business industries are paying that $3.4 million a year.
Okay.
And they're not coming to Wayne County because they know they're going to pay that $3.4 million a year to teach their current workers to read and use a computer. They've got to do it. If Mr. Brogdon was here today, he would tell you that he hires people, gets them to the floor of his shop. They cannot read the dials on the machine. They cannot read the safety manual. And they have to either train them or send them home. It's costing Wayne County every day.
Mr. Daughtery, and then Mr. Mayo.
Ms. Yates, commendable program, no doubt. I disagree with your method of going about resolving this explosive issue. And therefore, I would amend the motion, and that amendment would state that the Board of Literacy Connections develop some form of sliding fee schedule to assist in offsetting the cost of operation of Literacy Connection.
Mr.
Wilson,
Daughtery.
did you get that?
Yes, sir. Could I ask for clarity? Are you asking the amendment then to be for the literacy program to establish you a study? Or are we talking about amending the motion for a study?
No, again, let me read this.
Okay.
That the Board of Literacy Connections develop some form of sliding fee schedule to offset the cost of operation of Literacy Connections. I'll leave it to the board to develop that.
Okay. The motion then on the floor is to amend the motion to ask the Literacy Connection to implement or provide a study for a sliding scale fee. And that amendment, is that okay for the amendment, Mr. Daughtery? You want to reread the amendment?
Okay, let me reread it again.
Okay.
That the Board of Literacy Connections develop some form of sliding fee schedule to offset the cost of operation of Literacy Connections.
All right, the amendment then is on the floor. Any discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayo, Mr. Bell, and then Mr. Pate. You,
Okay.
Mr. Mayo threw his hand up, and I got you, and Mr. Pate. Yes, sir. Discussion on the amendment.
How about an amendment to the amendment?
Let's have discussion on the amendment first, please.
Okay, well, I don't have any discussion on that amendment.
Okay.
I have an amendment I want to make to that.
Well, that's out of order. We'll do discussion on the amendment. Mr. Bell.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, all due respect to Mr. Doherty, but his amendment doesn't have anything to do with my motion that I put on the floor. Nothing at all. That's a complete separate issue. So I don't think you can tie those two together.
I'm going to accept the amendment. Mr. Pate.
I go back to my previous question to council. Does this impact the AmeriCorps grants if we do that? And if so, I'd like to have an answer on that before I vote on this.
I'd have to look at the grants.
You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Dalton?
I understand.
If we, we go ahead and pass it, we lose the grants, and it's kind of all from that.
I'm sorry, I had misread your answer to a previous question stating that it would not affect their status.
It would not affect the, being a nonprofit,
Okay.
but I'd have to look at the grant to know whether it would.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to withdraw my amendment then.
Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for withdrawing your amendment. Mr. Daugherty, now Mr. Mayo is asked to be recognized.
Okay, I'd like to, do I need to do an amendment to Mr. Bell?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Okay.
do.
What I would like to see the board do on the amendment is to, first of all, I want to ask you, if you don't get this money today, this week, okay, can you make arrangements to still maintain the positions that you have, that you say you're gonna lose if you don't get this money? Can you see a way that you can make that work? And the reason I'm asking is that my amendment is this, is that we table this until our next commissioner meeting with the idea of going and letting our county manager, Mr. Lee Smith, or whoever we need to, I would like to see the city of Goldsboro step up to the plate more than what they are to help us with this. And I think that our county manager and some of us can get together with the city and really move forward with this. But my question to you is 2 weeks going to make you or break you?
The contract for the registrar expires next Friday. I do not have the funds to keep her for another day. We have contracted for the AmeriCorps positions, and we pay quarterly. So at the end of the quarter, which will be July, August, September, end of September, soon, in fact, probably waiting on my desk now is the quarterly bill, which will be $3,000, which we have temporarily the resources to pay. But for the position of the registrar, we do not have the resources to pay her beyond Friday of next week.
Okay, let's stop this discussion just for a second. There's an amendment on the floor to table this. Is there a date, Mr. Mayor, that you want to table it to in your amendment?
Yes, the 2 weeks, the next commissioner meeting, which is what day?
17th.
The 17th.
Mr. Mayor's made a motion that we table this until the 17th. Now, we can open it back up discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Cromartie.
in all due respect to Mr. Mayo's idea, and I think it's a good one, Mr. Mayo, but I do not want to tie our operation to what the city of Goldsboro may or may not do. They might, after watching us on TV, they might say, y'all crazy, you can't come and tell us what to do. I agree, we need to approach them, but let's not hold our operation hostage to what they may or may not do. And plus, we're dealing with folks' jobs, their careers, they gotta pay water bills and light bills and buy groceries. Let's not hold them hostage to what the city of Goldsboro may do. I am all for having our manager to approach them in whatever level that he feels like he might need to, including us marching over there with him. But let's go forth with the original motion for Mr. Bell. Let's please move this forward. I just don't want to hold the operation hostage for this amount of dollars when what we're talking about is we need to work on that part separately and with force, Mr. Mayor. I agree with you. Because I say this because I've heard you say before, and you've asked a good question, is the city participating with us? And each time I wonder, are they? How important it is to them? You already said a lot of the citizens were from out of the city, and this simply bringing the attention to it, Mr. Mayor, should put them in a little bit of a position saying, maybe we might need to get on board with this thing. But I asked us today, please let's vote on this and move it forward and not hold our folk hostage to what the city may or may not do. Thanks.
Still in discussion, Mr. Mayor?
In answer to Mr. Cromartie is that, that's why I asked Ms. Yates the question about would 2 weeks make or break her for this reason. For this reason. Sooner or later, as it's already been discussed here, as Literacy Connections gets bigger and it's going to grow, the city is going to have to come up and help us with the funding. And what better time now is to say, look, if we keep giving, then the city doesn't have any reason to come up and participate at all. If 2 weeks will not put you out of business, if you can see how you can do this for 2 weeks, give us 2 weeks to get with the city and see if we can get them on board, because it's better for them to come on now than later, because we're gonna have some partners on this. We're gonna have, in my opinion.
Since I've come on board, we received now $38,000 in federal funding.
Yeah.
We have partnerships through, we receive about $20,000 a year from United Way. We have partnerships now with business and industry that are contributing thousands of dollars through Bank on Wayne, the Bank on Wayne Financial Literacy Program. We have over $200,000 worth of volunteer time that's been dedicated. I have worked, and we have worked as an organization tirelessly to bring all of the stakeholders to the table. And I know that the city is the notable absent one. We have brought the federal government, we have brought the state government, we have brought business and industry, we have brought individuals. We have fundraised and had donations somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 from individuals. So we are on schedule to get the city on board. But they left us out last year, although we had requested to be
Thank you.
included.
Okay. Mr. Bell?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Mayo, can you withdraw that amendment and let's go ahead and take care of this item now, because it's on hand right now. And then we'll work on doing something about next year's budget. We shouldn't be tying their hands, as Mr. Cromartie said, trying to deal with this problem, because she needs the funds now. I would just hate to see that particular program fold, because we're not going to do what I think we should do, and I speak highly about the literacy program, and I just hope that we can go ahead and fund this program, and if you would withdraw your amendment and let Mr. Smith them go over to see the city.
Well, my point was is that if she can operate 2 weeks, that's all I'm asking. She hasn't said that she can't operate for 2 weeks. Is there some way that we can pull some money from somewhere to get you to operate for 2 weeks, so our county manager and whoever can go to the city and sit down and talk with them? Is 2 weeks, is this so important that 2 weeks is gonna be a problem? And somebody needs to just flat out tell me, and I will withdraw my motion if that's the case. But if we are the only funding arm for Literacy Connection, if we are the only source for revenue, then, we have a problem here if you can't operate for 2 weeks to give this board time to look at the results and what we can do to make it better in the future. That's what I'm saying.
Again,
Thank you, Mr. Mayo.
we receive federal and private and corporate and United Way funding.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Chairman.
Wait a second. Mr. Daugherty, and then I'm going to ask the county manager for some response here, because he's been active in this for a long, long time. So go ahead, Mr. Daugherty, and then I'll ask for County Manager Smith to give some comments.
Again, Ms. Yates, I could support my fellow commissioner's motion in a heartbeat if I only had a commitment of 2 things. One, that you worked hard to bring the missing person, the missing group, to the table as a stakeholder. You talked about the federal government, the state government, you talked about local government, you talked about going to the city, but you didn't talk about those that are a participant of the program. So if I only had a commitment that you would work with your board to develop some type of a sliding fee schedule, as we discussed earlier, and secondly, to add to Commissioner Mayo's concern that you continue to work with the city so that next year we don't have to fund, we won't be in this position again. I was hoping you would have taken the last 60 days to resolve those issues before you asked for any type of funding. But unfortunately, we are at the same point today that we were 60 days ago. We have not changed any of the dynamics, any of the funding arm, any of the sustainability. None of that has changed, and that's my concern. So I say that, Mr. Chairman, and maybe we can hear from.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Mr. Smith.
Okay. Couple things. First, let me back up just a little bit and do history just a second. And I think Ms. Yates has touched on some of this.
you can. The rest.
You know, we started out in 2009, 2010 at 5,700, 10, 11 at 40,000, which is what, an 80% increase. 11, 12, 56,050, so it's 28 or so percent. 12, 13, 75, 9, 64, and 85,000 this year. Keeping in mind that somewhere, and they credit within their budget request, the in-kind participation of somewhere around $34,000 a year. So you have to, so what I really wanted everybody to understand is that it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just a fact of that you also contribute as a county in kind also, which is over $34,000 on top of the 85. Just understand that, because I don't think it's fair to put out a number and say it's just one or the other. So I just want to make sure we were clear on that. Now, when I go back and I went back and looked at notes on our budget meetings, and several board members were there and the finance staff, obviously we had discussions about the positions, the fact that we were trying to reduce the budget. Were there any ways that we could cut back? We had those discussions with Ms. Yates. Also, the board, and in our regular meeting as a board and in the budget sessions, requested that the Literacy Connections Board look at ways to better sustain themselves moving forward through outside funding, donations. There was that discussion. Also asked that one of the things was that the program be evaluated later in the fiscal year, bring updates to the board, and let the board look at what the impacts were. So you had a base and you could compare what were the successes, what were the failures. That was part of that discussion. Now, I guess when I kind of get into where you are and what the request is, I hear, and that's why I want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right to ask the question. So you're saying if the board does not contribute this $26,000 or so, that in 2 weeks, which would be the September 13th, you lose the registrar position.
Friday of next week is the last funded day for that position.
Okay, the last funded day. Now, has an application been made and the application been accepted and received and approved by that program? In other words, has funding been approved if matching is approved?
Yes.
Okay. So, but what you're saying is because the lack of the match would mean on the Friday the 13th of September, that goes away.
We're actually talking about two separate positions. The registrar's position is the one that will go away.
Yes, that's what I just
We
asked.
have made the contract to have the two teachers, the AmeriCorps workers, for the year, in the belief that through our fundraising, funding, through the support of the county commissioners, the city, the United Way, other agencies, we would identify the funds.
Sure.
Historically, the commissioners have provided for one position,
That's right.
which was $5,600 and something dollars. So the new positions, they upped it to $6,000 this year. The new position was the only new monies that we were asking.
Okay. Now, let me try to understand this. In part of what I'm hearing the board say in trying to wanting some time to consider, if there was, be careful on what kind of ice I'm walking on, but when you look at this position that you could lose, the request in order not to lose that position or not being able to fund it by the 13th is what? What's the dollar amount?
It's
It's within that
14,000.
It's
It's
14.
not 27,000. It's 14,937.
Okay,
It's
14,937.
10,400 in salary plus associated benefits of about 4,500.
But you've already signed the contract on AmeriCorps, right?
Yes, we have to sign for the year. That grant has to be written in the spring before we know back from the county commissioners. It comes due, in fact, the week before we know.
Okay. And I apologize, Mr. Chair, if this, even if the board wanted to consider this, I'm not saying they will or will not, but could the board or whomever or a group or somebody walk in here with a wad of cash, could it be partially funded to get you through the next 30 days while this is evaluated?
That
Yes or
would
no?
be acceptable, yes, that would be possible.
Do you see what I'm trying to do? To give you some time, and I'm not saying approve it, disapprove, I'm not trying to find a way for you to do it or not do it, I'm just trying to look at, give you some avenues of what to do. So it looks like about, 27, 14, what, less than, over the next $2,000 would get you through 30 days?
Yes, sir.
Would give you 30 days and they don't lose the position, and they can, gives you time to work with the city. We have a meeting with the city on the 13th,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, the 30th of September. You've got that coming up, and I was just thinking, get into that meeting, have a conversation, if that's what you choose to do. That would put you into October to be able to negotiate this
The
out.
month of September, we have.
We have a breakfast
municipalities.
meeting with, we're meeting with all municipalities this month.
yeah.
Our meeting with Goldsboro is a breakfast meeting on the 30th, I
That's the
believe.
last one.
Yeah, Monday the 30th, and we have a meeting, and, we'll be having all kinds of agenda items with all the different municipalities. I just thought you have full audience with them,
How much was that figure? We needed,
2,000.
2,000?
2,000, if I, in pulling it out, if you said in order not to lose that position, on the funding date of the 13th, if I look at the rest of the year, $2,000 would get you through the next 30 days, or get literacy connections through the next 30 days, while you're considering, not that you're guaranteeing anything, but would get you through until you could decide whether you wanted to do anything else, if you want to. I'm just giving you avenues.
Is that what you would?
That's what I would do.
Okay, then, okay, we're still in discussion, and I asked Mr. Smith, County Manager, to give us the county's take as far as the manager. Mr. Mayo?
I'd like to withdraw my motion for tabling. Well, I want to still table it, but I want to do some short-term funding, if you will, or make a recommendation that we approve the $2,000 that would take you through 30 days. That way it gives us a chance to have our municipality meeting and the meeting with the city to work on this. So I would like to change my motion, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have,
Really needs to be.
we have, whoa, please. No, sir.
County thing.
No, sir. We have an amendment on the floor. You'll have to withdraw your amendment,
I do.
and then you'll have to establish a new amendment, sir.
Okay, all right. I withdraw my amendment to table.
Correct.
To table the Literacy Connection. So what else I need to do?
If the board wants to do what you said you were trying to do, I think you vote on the motion to table and then make a second motion to fund $2,000.
Okay, it has to be two motions, but we're still in discussion on the first, to amend the motion to table.
Okay.
We're still in that discussion, and I would like to take care of the amendment to Mr. Bell's motion.
Mr.
We're still
Chairman,
in discussion
should I
phase. and
withdraw
Mr.
my motion to make it easier? If I withdraw my motion,
You certainly can, sir.
Or modify your motion to include funding $2,000 for the next 30 days.
Mr. Bell, you're certainly privy to do that, sir.
so to make sure I'm clear, so you withdrawing your motion?
That's correct.
Okay, and then I'll modify my motion to include the $2,000 temporarily until we come up with a real.
Did you
funding.
withdraw your first motion and made a
Yes.
motion to give $2,000
Right.
so they don't lose position while you're studying and
Right.
talking to City of Goldsboro is what I understood you to
Okay.
say.
That's correct.
Let me make it clear then, to make sure
Okay.
I'm clear on it. So I'm sitting in there. Chairman, you want to make a motion that we provide $2,000
Yes.
From fund balance.
from fund balance to carry this for 30 days?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Motion's on the floor to from fund balance $2,000 to this program for 30 days.
Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? Is that okay, Mr. Bell?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, now discussion on the motion.
agreeing to the motion, would hope during the 30 days that we use this time to discuss it with the city, and that the board, you discuss with your board to find some optional types of sliding fee scale, so that when we get back together to vote on the larger funds, that we'll have those questions answered.
What I'd like to do
Okay.
is to conduct a study to see what the impact of the sliding scale would be, for example, on our articles of incorporation, which are registered with the state, if we have made that statement, if we have to refile, on our membership in the Wayne Charitable Partnership, their impacts. I have to study what that impact
All that
would
would
be.
have to be done. You
But
need
then
to
that's
absolutely,
fair,
the
that you
legalities of it have to be checked off, absolutely.
I agree.
All right, discussion, we're still in the form of discussion.
And just,
Mr. Pate,
and just include those grants too, let me make sure that he
Yeah.
has a chance to look at that,
All
because
of
that's
it.
really important. Thank you.
any other discussion before we vote on the motion? I do. That's right. Just sit back. Everybody's had an hour, and I've kept my thoughts to myself, but I have made some notes. First of all, I want to tell you, Pat, that I appreciate and enjoy your passion right off the get-go.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I appreciate the comments from the commissioners and the Mr. Camardi's comments. Mr. Camardi, my father was white. He could not read. And when I was in school, I had to read all the schematics for him to plumb a house. And when it got into the heating and air conditioning, he had to give it up because he couldn't read the schematics when he went digital. And then my brothers took my place when I was in the Navy, so they helped him read, but my father could not read. East Point is having to deal with Medicaid, as you know, and they used a 1/4 cent off the sales tax for per member per month to find out what it cost. The senior center has certainly been an asset to our county, but it costs also. And we've had the director to talk about capping lunches because of the abundance of those who are showing up for lunch at the new senior center. And you mentioned a while ago about capping new student registration because you have 476 students. Now, if I look at the students and I look at school and students in the school system, how much it costs to look after substance abuse issues with East Point per member per month, the monies that are allocated from the state to that. If I look at the school system and I look at the senior center, now I've got to look at literacy. And during one of my interviews about 2 months ago, yes, literacy is at the top of my list as far as sustainability and hoping that it will continue. Certainly in the volunteer part, when we have over 400 people helping. Is that correct?
I have to look at the data,
Well,
but yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, sometime or
hundreds of
another,
people.
you've got hundreds of people that are stepping up to the table,
Yes.
which is wonderful. That's what it's all about, is people. But you mentioned a while ago that, or someone mentioned, we have given birth to, yes, we have given birth. Well, when we give birth, I guess, as a father, you have to nurture, you have to support, you have to guide, you have to feed, you've got to bring that child up. And that's what we're looking at today. Everything that was said here in this room today is absolutely need to be said. My concern is sustainability, like Commissioner Dodd has mentioned. I'm very familiar with federal entities that use a sliding scale, whether it be a person that can afford it, or a person who just can't. So I understand Mr. Camardi's point. Mr. Pates, I understand his. I understand what we're saying here. But you also said that more than what we really need, more than what we really need. You were talking about money. you just said next year, coming in here next year. You would like to have more money.
No, sir.
Well, you said more. I would really like to ask for more of the more what we really need, not than, but more of what we really need. Yes, you need a lot of money, and we understand that. I can speak for the board. I feel like we understand it. Yes, it can just grow. It's grown this in 2 years. I'm agreeing with tabling this for 30 days because I want to know more about it. I want to know, is 27,000 enough? I want to know if 50,000 is going to be enough. I want to know what 100,000 is going to be. We just had a payroll system that went kafooey and have $500,000 out there of overpayments. You might need 200,000. You might need 300,000. And with your passion and with 2 years of explosive growth, I can see where, yes, we're going to have to take this under study, and we're going to have to see, and we're going to depend on you to bring us that. So I would suggest that your passion move away from what you're doing and move over to a way of sustainability to show that it can get as big as we want it, but everybody has to be at the table. You said a while ago down in Mount Olive, Pikeville, I think Southern Springs. They're all municipalities, and we're going to meet with them all in the next 30 days. But we're going to take this to the table because this is a need. And the economic stability here is paramount. But that's my part of the discussion and hearing what you're saying. I really hear what you're saying. But the principles is that we have to guide and feed this organization. And just to come in here and say we need $27,000 when in fact you know in your heart that in 6 months, because of all the help you have, all the volunteers that are coming to the tent, everybody who's filling up that building, you know that it's going to progress, it's going to get bigger. And we've just got to know as commission, as governance, how do we handle that? That's my comments. We have a motion on the floor, so that's, if there are no other comments or any other comments from the commissioners? You understand the motion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your time and your commitment.
We look forward to seeing you here very shortly within the next 30 days. Now, let me ask a question real quick to County Manager. Mr. Smith, how do we proceed from here since we've made the vote today as it is? What's your recommendation? What's your suggestions?
Well, a couple things, I would like to, first, I guess budget amendments have to be, we've got one being done, so we need to approve a budget amendment because that's going to be before the next meeting, so we're going to bring it to you in just a few moments. Okay, so we're doing that. The other thing is that I would like to understand a little better the issue and kind of partner with Ms. Yates or whomever on her board, with Ms. Holt and I, maybe the county attorney, so we can understand the complexities of the grants, those type things. It's not going to be that difficult. I think one meeting we can chop through those pretty quickly, but make sure we understand when we make changes, how are there other impact or the funding sources impacted. But I think at the same time, there needs to be a formal request sent out to, we talked about Goldsboro, but when I look at Mount Olive and these other municipalities, which are population centers, I really think, just my opinion, that we should ask all municipalities to participate in some level based on population, based on whatever, because they're population centers. So if we're going to ask one, I would ask them all. I would ask them all to participate.
That's something we can note
Yes.
as we go to the municipalities this month.
Correct. We
Please
have
make
one
that
starting
note.
tonight.
Okay. Any other? No matter how someone tries to spin this today as you were here, it's not adversity. Everything here today was because it's an opportunity. You're taking, or somebody might take it adversely as an adversarial, but it's not. that's why we have work sessions, and that's why I asked for this work session today, is to have all of this brought out in the open so we could discuss it. So we're moving forward, and that's progress. We're taking it to, as Mr. Evans always said, we're taking it to the next level.
Thank you. I live a faith-based life, and I believe that we will carry through with this to do the right thing.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, as we try to, we have a closed session. I told the WCDA that we would have that closed session at hopefully 11, but we're close, we're close to our end, so we can certainly have the Board of Commissioners' comments. We start with Mr. Bell. We'll run through the comments, and then we can go into closed session.
Okay, I'll make mine real quick. I did communicate with the prison, Division of Prison about Wayne Correctional Center, and I found out that we could not make a visit out there now because they're in a different mode. The inmates are going to be transferring pretty soon. Some of them already gone. So because of the contraband concept and everything, they don't want people going in and out until they get everybody out of the system out there. The only problem that we was going to have is that when the last inmate, the rules are, when the last inmate moves, they lock the door. Well, I'm trying to get that reversed where they will not lock the door. They will let us come out there and visit before they do lock the door. And Mr. Solomon in Raleigh is going to let us know as soon as he get the go-ahead from his upline. And the other thing that I have is, and we can table this, we don't have to act on this today. I think we need to take another look at the public comment time. You know, about well, we only have one guy coming up here every 2 weeks, and he hogs up all the time, and nobody else speaks. So we ought to take another look at that. That's just something I just want to pass
Looking at
out.
a time element,
Or just maybe,
what do you say?
maybe he should, maybe once, the first Tuesday in each month, and just leave it at that. I mean, we sit here and we're not really listening to what's being said when they come up here and talk. So we just ought to take a look at it sometime.
Mr. Daugherty?
You know, the previous work session, I suppose, kind of brings to mind of an attempt by this commissioner to try to get government managers to understand that the programs must be sustainable. And the methods in the past have been basically, well, let's go to the federal government, state government, local governments to get those sustainabilities. So as the program grows, so does the funding from that entity. And we've seen that, we just heard in regards to the history, where it started out, and I believe the first year, our dollar amount.
$5,700.
How much?
$5,700.
$5,700 into this program. And understand when it was $5,700 invested, there evidently was a great need then as well. Now, the program was expanded. We provided we provided a facility. I don't think they had a facility that was provided before. It was almost big Barry and Steel for a place to be. It was at your place. So we've got a facility. That means we have to staff it. We have to air condition it. So those dollars increase. So really, we are at a funding level currently well over $100,000. And we're talking about in what, 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
So again, if we can get the board, if we can get management to understand, let's find some other revenue sources to help sustain that so that we won't be back here in a couple of years raising our tax rate to 99 cents, as you mentioned in one county. So I think it's from that standpoint that I think all of us are concerned of holding that cost down. So I just make that comment that even though sometimes it gets a little passionate from one point, there are people that organized this that were sitting here today. They were in the incubator state when it was just beginning. So undoubtedly they're extremely passionate about that. But we would want to make sure that going forward that what they started, we can sustain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like our work sessions that we have as a commission, because I look at it as a time of constructive criticism. That's the way I see it. That we're working together to try to come up with solutions that in the end will not hurt citizen services, but is also favorable to the taxpayer of Wayne County. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all, as long as we get the job done at the most economical way that we can, and the citizens of Wayne County are paying for all this. So we have to be diligent. The other thing is that it's a little bit disappointing news this morning from the standpoint of the Steele Memorial Library. As you heard, we found some asbestos in the building down in Mount Olive, and it was not caught when the building was purchased, I understand. So, but these are things that we have to deal with. It is what it is. And as Mr. Parker said, it's going to decrease in one area, the cost, and increase in another. Hopefully, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that somewhere along the way there may be a washout. So, yeah. So from that standpoint, I certainly don't want the people of Wayne County and Mount Olive, the Friends of the Library, to get discouraged. These are things that are normal in a building renovation situation. So that's all the comments I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Payne?
That's about all I have. A couple things I noticed this weekend. I had an opportunity to travel to Greenville, South Carolina, and take a little different route than I usually do. But since we've been talking about transportation so much, I really was paying attention, because I was going along those interstate highways, and among them from Goldsboro, especially when it hit 95 to 2026 up to Columbia to Greenville, multiple parks of industries everywhere along those corridors out there. So let's just continue to press forward on our vision of 795 to 40 and finishing up what we've got to do to the ports in Morehead City, because that will bring prosperity to East North Carolina more than anything I can think of. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Mr. Cromartie?
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for looking out and recognizing that we can think it through, talk it through, and then come up with a solution that can work. I feel very proud to be among you all in doing this. I will not and will not ever deter from the fact that knowledge is sort of like a great ever-expanding gush of wind. You don't know exactly where it comes from, but somehow or another you know it when you feel it. There are folk who the need will constantly expand for some folk that need help to get to another place. And so I sort of want to leave it that we can't, and I'm sorry, Jim, we will have to be open to looking to do the most for folk versus the least. Now, don't misunderstand me, but all the world's knowledge has opened up the need and the desire for people to read more, see more, learn more, and do more. I'll tell you what, when I look from the number that says students, year to date, 39 in 2011, for the Literacy Connection, let me say what I'm talking about. The Literacy Connection, September 2012, it jumped to 135, and then September 2013, 476. It's like the chicken or the egg, Mr. Manager. Which comes first? Is it the desire to learn to read, or the need to read, and then the desire to go do it? I mean, I don't want to confuse this, but the more knowledge comes up, the more people feel a need and a desire to be able to be involved. And when I saw those numbers, I said, boy, those numbers really jump. But then I thought to myself, then she explained, she could went out and talk to folk and made them aware that we have this beautiful program. And I'm sorry, they say if you build a field, they'll come and play. That was in that movie. What, a great building was put there, program put in place. I'm sorry. We may have people coming out of the woodworks that would just never have thought about it before until the great boards in the past, the previous boards, not our board, previous boards put this stuff in place and say, here it is, you all come and enjoy it. But that's what a democracy is all about. That's what America is all about. That's why people think we can go all around the world and do stuff right now, is because we are the greatest nation expected to do great things for our people. And that's what we do in this room. And that's what we've done this morning also, is to keep it going, Mr. Mayo. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Cromartie. Mr. Smith, do you want to,
That's it. Field trip.
before I get into just a brief comment, do you want to get into the budget amendment at this time? Are you ever
Can they
ready?
approve it in principle?
I had Mrs. Yates go sign her part.
Yeah, but we can just approve it in principle that it would be a $2,000 appropriation to the Literacy Connections program, and it would come from fund balance.
It's being prepared, and she's
And
signing
then that
it
would
right
allow the chairman to sign, myself and the chairman to sign what's being prepared.
All right, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daugherty.
I make that motion.
Thank you. For $2,000 for fund balance. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, that is unanimous. As far as the closed session on WCDA, I noticed that the Wayne County Development Alliance has a luncheon today. No, that's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay, got it, okay.
You're
Just wanna
good.
make sure. Real quick, a couple of months ago, the 4-H robotic team came before us with an idea, a dream, and they stayed focused and they got it done. This afternoon at 5:30, before our meeting at 6, our dinner with Fremont tonight. They're inviting us to see the robot that they built, I think in a kitchen with a small closet. But they've got it, and of course it was at the association, association meeting last weekend. All the students were there, and I just want to congratulate them. Real quick on the comments for announcements, just information, and I'll tidy up here. Wednesday, September the 4th, that's tomorrow, the Economic Outlook Forum at 12 o'clock at Goldsboro Country Club. I'd like to see if all commissioners could go to that if you could. And then Thursday, the 5th, this coming Thursday, breakfast at 7:30 with a program at 8, legislative update breakfast with all of the House members and Senate members here in the county. And then there's the 20th day of September 2013 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd like to get some volunteers, commissioners, to go to a special pre-reception will take place beginning at 1500. That's 3 o'clock in the Wing Conference Room, and this is on the base. It's to celebrate POW MIA Day ceremony. But I have this and like it to get out to the commissioners.
Okay.
And also the Wayne County Veterans Memorial. The Friends of the Wayne County Veterans Memorial have invited us to a reception to honor and recognize the veterans and families of World War II and the Korean War on Friday, September the 6th. That will be this Friday at 10 a.m. in the morning. That will be at the Herman Park Center, and then a tour of the Wayne County Veterans Memorial will conclude the reception. Thank you very much. That's all my comments. And do I have a motion that we go into closed session? But before we go into closed session, I would like to take about a 5 or 8 minute recess. Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay. Motion that we go into closed session after our 5-minute recession. Motion
For the purpose of consulting with an attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss matters relating to the location of industry or business in Wayne County, and to instruct the public body staff of negotiation the possibility of purchasing property.
Thank you. Motion to go into closed session. Mr. Mayor, thank you. All those, any discussion?